Librarians are being asked to read all of the books that are in the children's section of the library to determine whether or not they are appropriate to be in the children's section of the library.
Libraries are doing an Is This for Kids with books? Welcome to another episode of Is This for Kids? I am Jonathan Beard of Lovins.
I am Katie, Mrs. Ruby Rubalcaba. Are you okay?
Yes.
Conversation leading into this was a lot. It was a lot.
Someday we are going to have something like a Patreon where people will be able to get some bonus content from us, should that be something they enjoy.
I'm sure they'll
Don't you think?
Conversation that we just had.
I am married with 3 children, and Mrs. Ruby is married with 5 children. We are not married to each other.
No.
Just to give you some context, my oldest is 8, my youngest is 3, your oldest is 15.
Yeah.
And your youngest?
2.
I think I got that down now. Mm-hmm. Which is impressive. And we are just parents who are navigating this digital world, trying to be the best parents that we can be. And that's what this podcast is for, to help other parents. We're not telling you how to parent. If you disagree with us, if you're watching Freddy Krueger with your 3-year-old, okay, maybe then we'll judge you. But
Hi, Dad. Hi.
This is just to help parents.
Yeah, the goal is there's a lot out there. There's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of things that you hear about. There's a lot of things that you're like, I heard that was bad, but was it really? And we want to help, fill in those gaps, give a little bit of information, help people to be able to make their own choices for their own families, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that is the purpose of this podcast.
Yeah.
This podcast is not for kids.
It's not for kids.
It's for parents or grandparents or guardians of galaxies.
Guardians of galaxies.
Yep.
Specifically Groot.
I have a feeling that you're not the biggest fan of drama, both in real life and in the book.
The concept.
And I am a massive fan of talking about C.S. Lewis, so we should save the good for later.
Well, okay. Sure. So the book itself, drama, it's kind of controversial right now. It's found itself on a lot of banned book lists, or at least it's got the reputation of it. Are you familiar with this whole banned book concept that's getting big right now?
Yes, but I don't really understand it. So can you explain it? Because I keep hearing either side of a political aisle's books getting banned.
Yes.
Is it it's all books?
I don't know. Honestly, the debate seems a little trumped up to me, and that was not a euphemism or a pun or anything. It just seems that way. Basically, there have been some laws put out where librarians are being asked to read all of the books that are in the children's section of the library to determine whether or not they are appropriate to be in the children's section of the library.
Libraries are doing an Is This for Kids with books?
Yes, but all they're doing is moving stuff. Okay. So some states have passed laws. The state that I live in are now requiring libraries, before they can put something into the children's section, to have actually had a librarian read the book and confirm that it doesn't contain sex, nudity, violence, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then move it out of that section if it does. So this is one of the books that has come across that. But my interest in reading this book came up because I saw a bunch of these banned books on a table that were being offered to people as oh, you should buy banned books because that's a thing people are into. But one of the other books that was on the table was a book that was assigned to my child to read. My high school freshman last year was assigned to read one of those books at her Catholic high school. So I was like, the theme of the people who were putting this out there, it seemed to be that they felt that these would be sort of left-leaning books and that they were being banned because they were left-leaning. But I'm looking at a book that was at a conservative Catholic high school as assigned reading. So I was like, is this trumped up? Is this real? I doubt that book's even banned, or if it is, it's banned for small children because it was about the Holocaust. So that kind of thing. So that was what I was wanting to know when I read drama.
So you picked up that book.
Picked up this book.
From the banned table section and read it.
I picked it up from Amazon.
Oh, okay.
But there you go. So my criticisms of this book are kind of probably not what most people are thinking of. So if you're not familiar with Raina Telgemeier's books, she writes graphic novels. So you've got basically books with very few words in them, lots and lots of pictures, several pages with no words at all. In fact, there's about 8,000 words in the entire book. So by comparison, there's about 32,000 words in Charlotte's Web. So this is a fourth of the size of Charlotte's Web.
Charlotte's Web for kids too. Dang it. Okay, sorry, keep going.
Anyway, when you look it up and you try to figure out what's the reading level required to read this book, it is in a 1st through 3rd grade reading level, meaning your average 7-year-old can read and understand what is going on in this book. But the subject matter or the interest level that it's usually put out at is 6th through 8th grade. It is about a middle school girl and her relationship with 2 sets of brothers while they put on a middle school play, basically.
Okay.
So what we're looking at is a book that's easy enough to be read by a first grader, but about topics that are more appropriate for a middle schooler. And I think that that's usually where people get kind of fussy. There are some arguments that people make that this is about the fact that 2 of the characters are gay, and that's going to be the main reason why people don't want to read the book. And that could be true, but it might just be a question of whether or not you feel like a book that's appropriate or the reading level of a first grader should be talking about sex and sexuality. Or in this case, my main concern about the book is that this is a girl who spends the entire book just boy crazy. She's first interested in one brother, and then another brother, and then another. Like, it just keeps going before eventually she gets dumped at a dance because the kid realizes he's gay. So it seems like it's just not the kind, it's just encouraging kids to get into vapid relationships. I've said the word vapid 30 times on this podcast.
That's good. It's a good word. I've never heard it until today.
It's encouraging kids to get into these shallow, meaningless relationships with each other, to cast each other off kind of willy-nilly, and to have very little deep content. Like, I'm just, in my opinion, if you're in middle school and you're reading a book that is less beautiful, true, deep than Charlotte's Web, it's probably something you shouldn't be reading.
Yeah.
So my criticism of it is that it's not appropriate reading material for the age level of the interest.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was a middle school youth minister for many years, and the type of stereotypical middle school kid does not need any encouragement to be more dramatic than they already are. So based on everything that you said, it just seems like it. I was gonna compare it to Calvin and Hobbes, but I love Calvin and Hobbes, and Calvin and Hobbes is actually a lot harder to read than first grade. Like, there's a lot of big words in Calvin and Hobbes.
There's an entire scene in Calvin and Hobbes where Calvin's dinner comes to life and recites the to be or not to be soliloquy from Hamlet. Like, this is not that. And quite frankly, since it's about plays, they had way more opportunity than Calvin's dinner did.
Sure.
But no, it was not great. But
so what do you think? Like, who should be reading? No one. No one should read the book. It's not worth reading.
I just wouldn't recommend the book at all. I would say that if you have a child and you don't mind the concept of your kid only thinking about boys and girls and relationships, like you would, if you don't mind the fact that your 7th grader is boy crazy or girl crazy or whatever you want to call it, then I suppose it would be appropriate for kids in that age range. But the reading level is so low that it has just no value to make them think harder, to make them more interested in things. And I did have a slight, to sort of tip my hand about, my personal values. I was mildly offended that the 2 gay characters, they're 2 twin brothers that both end up being gay. And the general consensus was that their father was unaccepting, that he was very strict, that he was not a great guy. And then when you see the father, it's not that he's not a great guy, it's just that he's very strict. He's not accepting. And when they show him, he's in a car with a rosary hung from the rearview mirror, which felt a little like an attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only a former Catholic would put that in there. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You'd have to, that's not like a thing that people.
It does feel like it comes out of a wound. Like, yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go.
That's very interesting.
Yes. But as far as whether or not it's dangerous, whether or not it's going to teach your kid to be gay or whatever, it's not that. It's not some of the scarier stuff we read about.
Yeah. And this is on, you think this is banned in a lot of places, not just...
Honestly, I would imagine that this one would still make the kids section. If a librarian read this, I don't think that they would put it away from kids. It's not inappropriate. It's an 8th grader. How bad can it be, you know?
I would love to hear from our audience, any other books or TV shows or movies or social media, music, you name it, things you want us to review and talk about, whether or not they are for kids. Let us know in the comment section on Instagram or YouTube or however you're consuming the podcast, even with a 5-star review. Yeah, you could just go over, write a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of those things. We're all over the place. We're on Amazon now too. Oh my gosh, we're on Amazon? Yeah. Oh, I used that. Yeah, see, we're there. We're everywhere. We're everywhere now. We are everywhere. Yeah, leave us a nice review. Let us know what you'd like to hear from us, and question John's taste in books. Until next time, I will be reading more books soon. Because they're not just for kids.
Is this podcast for kids?
This podcast is not for kids.
No.
But Chronicles of Narnia is.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, bye.